All right, we're gonna go
Ready to go?
live and I'll let you know when everybody's in the queue.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we are ready to go.
Very good. Good evening and welcome to the November 18th, 2021 Liquor Board hearing. It is now in session. The board has all meetings transcribed, which serve as minutes of the hearings. The board keeps such minutes stored electronically, and they're available to review by calling the board for an appointment. Now I make a motion that the transcripts of the previous board hearing held on October the 12th, 2021 be accepted as board minutes for that date. And I ask for a second.
Commissioner Duffy, I'll second the motion. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried, and I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Praley for some announcements.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Duffy. My name is Jimmy Praley. I serve as counsel to the board. At the beginning of every meeting, I make a few brief announcements. The first is that the commissioners before you tonight are part-time public servants. They all have other outside interests. When they know they have a conflict of interest or an appearance of a conflict of interest, they recuse themselves from any given matter. However, they can't possibly know who's going to appear from the public in any matter, which may present a conflict of interest for them. So when your case is called, if you believe that a commissioner has a conflict of interest, you need to announce that to us when the case is called, and that commissioner or commissioners, as the case may be, will address it accordingly. If not, we'll proceed forward as if there is no conflict of interest, no assumption that there is. Secondly, this board's rules and regulations provide that the chair, for the purposes of administrative and judicial economy, can have board's counsel rule on the admissibility of evidence and objections if counsel's present and objections are made. This board handles many cases at every hearing, and this assignment allows us to expedite the hearing. So sometimes, rather than the chairman turning to me advising the chairman, I'll simply make a ruling on admissibility of evidence or objections, and my ruling will be that of the chair and the board. Finally, as we are all aware, this is a virtual hearing. As such, the board has adopted special rules, as many other jurisdictions have. Those rules are available online. Pursuant to the rules, anybody who wishes to be heard at the hearing, who's not a participant to any specific proceeding in the applicant's case, needs to submit written testimony to the board at least 5 days prior to the hearing date. Any submitted writings are automatically accepted as an exhibit to an applicable case. So other than that, while the public's welcome to view tonight's proceeding, individual members of the public are not allowed to testify live. It's my understanding that we have not received any written testimony on any of the violations or any of the cases. The board has reviewed all of the documents that have been submitted before you tonight. And with that, I will turn it over to our Chief Inspector, Wayne Harris, who can call the first case. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Praley. My name is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris. The first case is Colony Liquor Mart, known as Nadia LLC. Kajdeep Kapoor, managing member, with Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Greg Wright, number 2029. The liquor inspector is Mark A. Muckelbauer. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license with beer, wine, and spirit tasting and Sunday privileges. It's located at 3259A Solomon's Island Road in Edgewater, Maryland, 21037. There are no restrictions on the record as is. The first violation is a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01. A minors. Reference Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729550 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident's dated September 5th of 2021. Second violation is of the alcoholic beverage 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729-550 by Detective Greg Wright, 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. Incidents dated September 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Mr. Kapoor, are you going to testify, sir?
Yes,
Thank you. Raise your right hand, please. Okay, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, fine. Please state your name and address for the record. We'll start with the detective.
Detective
My-
Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, currently assigned to Western District.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kapoor?
Rajdeep Kapoor, a resident of 243 Braxton Way, Edgewater.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I can't hear. We can't hear.
Oh, there's someone else there I see with you, Mr. Kapoor.
Yes, my daughter is with me.
Okay, will she be testifying?
No,
Okay, all right. Mr. Praley?
All right, thank you, Inspector Harris. Detective Middleton, if you could please start off by reading your report into the record.
Yes, sir. The incident was September 5th of this year, 2021, approximately 12:40 in the afternoon. Detective Wright and myself were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter the Colony Liquor Mart at 3259A Solomon's Island Road in Edgewater, located here in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store and picked out a 6-pack of Angry Orchard hard cider and took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Angry Orchard hard cider from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. The CS purchased the alcoholic beverage, received the change, and started to exit the business. The clerk started to yell out to the CS as he exited the store about having an identification. The CS continued and exited the store, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself. I know through my training, knowledge, experience that Angry Orchard hard cider is an alcoholic beverage. I entered the store, identified myself as a police officer, and identified the clerk as Rajdeep Kapoor, January 22nd, 1957, from his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Kapoor advised that he knows better and should have asked for identification before he sold the alcoholic beverage. He advised that he has been working approximately 5 years and has had the alcohol awareness training. I took a photograph of Mr. Kapoor, his driver's license, and attached it to the report. A photograph was taken of the Angry Orchard hard cider, then it was destroyed. A photograph was also taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license hanging on the wall behind the cashier area. And a copy of this report was sent and forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. That would be my statement.
All right, thank you, Detective. Mr. Kapoor, do you have any questions of the detective based on that report?
I have just one question that when I asked the detective, how old are you? And before he left, he was standing at the counter and he told me that he's 21. In meantime, I have
Mr. Kapoor, sorry to interrupt you here, but this is just your opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to present your case in defense. I'm just asking if you have any questions of the detective at this time.
No.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of the detective?
I don't have any questions. Yeah.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Detective Middleton?
No, sir, I have no questions.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kapoor, sorry for interrupting you now, but now is your time to present your case to the board.
I can't.
Let us know what you want to say.
Yeah. First of all, what I want to say that I am guilty because I gave him a 6-pack of liquor. before I start about talking about everything else, I just want to make sure that I want to make it clear that I really respect and admire whatever the law enforcement agencies in the county and country and the state are doing. This is for our safety. This is for our people. This is for our children. And we really, I mean, whatever I will say, I just want to make sure that in each and every word I say, it's always with an admiration of the work, whatever the law officer, law enforcement agencies are doing, the police officers are doing, and there will be nothing against them. I am so glad they are around us. Just a small example, I had somebody got sick in the store, and we called the 911, and we have a camera in the store, and we saw within 9 minutes, ambulance were in the store, and police were in the store, and they took care of it. So I really admire that. However, I have an explanation in this situation. What happens, sometimes people come, minors, and when we ask them for ID, they say the ID is in the car, and they go and they never come back. So we know that those people, they didn't have ID. However, our store policy is that we want to make sure that if somebody tries to get alcohol from us and he's under 21, we just want to make sure he understands, or they understand that we don't like it, and we try to kind of discourage it. By discouraging it, they talk to each other, to their friends, to this store. They shouldn't go, because we not only won't serve them, but also we will suggest them not to come anymore. So what we do, we ask do you have ID? If they say yes, I don't have IDs in the car, we ask them that, do you have money with you? Okay, then you can leave your money and go bring your ID. If you don't have ID, just take your money back. So a number of times, not too many times, but a number of times, they told us, well, I don't have ID, they take your money. I will tell them, listen, now, I mean, you didn't have ID, you told me that you have an ID, and now you are not telling that you don't have an ID, but please, if you can, please don't come until even you don't have ID, or if you are not 21, please don't come. So just, we want to make sure to talk to them. We don't want to be in a situation that they come and we tell them ID, they go, they disappear, and tomorrow their friends are trying, tries again. So what we do, we make sure, if we can, if he doesn't have ID and he has money and he doesn't have ID, he tells us, so we recognize their face to make sure that next time it doesn't happen to us. When the detective came, my mistake is that I took his money, and the beer was at the table. I asked him, how old are you? He told me very nice gentleman. I can't say anything. He told me very clearly that I am 21. He told me that he is 21. I said, can I see your ID? He said that my ID is in the car. And I said, can you please bring it? He said, yes, I can bring it. But he took the beer and very quickly left. I mean, very quick. So what happens? I don't want to run after anybody. This is not safe for me, and this is not safe for somebody else. Because I have heard, I don't know anybody, but I have heard some incidents that if you run after somebody, he can go outside the store, he can fall under a car, or there are some incidents that store owner ran after somebody, he got shot. I don't know anybody like that, but these things are happening. So I'm not telling that he ran away fast, but he went very quickly, and I went out of the store. When he went, and he went in the car, and I saw, then I knew that, because he sat on the passenger side and the back side of the car, so I knew that this is, then I didn't want to go after him all the way there. I asked for ID. I asked him, how old are you? Yes, I am guilty that I'm guilty that I sold him. But the beer was at the table. He didn't leave the beer, and he he said that I'm bringing ID and very quickly, very fast. I mean, for me, it takes, for me to come out of the counter, I have to go around the counter and come out. And I did. I went. I came out, but I didn't want to run after him. I mean, if I knew this, he's a policeman, I will tell him that please stay. But I don't know, for my own safety, for his safety, we don't want to run after anybody. But yes, I am guilty.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Kapoor. Mr. Maloney, do you have any questions on Mr. Kapoor?
This was a couple of months ago, and I was just curious what you perhaps put in place in the meantime so that doesn't happen again.
Well, before that and after that, always only me and my wife work. We have one employee. He's a police officer in Charles County. He's a police officer. We always make sure whoever comes, we have to check the ID. We have lottery machine, we put the ID in the lottery machine scanner and we see how old he is. And when we see the ID, we see how old he is. Just in case if the ID is fake or something, we ask him, how old are you? Although I have his ID that he's born in 94 and he must be 17, like at 20 or 23, 18 or 9, whatever. We ask him, how old are you to verify that? And what our policy is, and it was before that, whoever comes in and enters the store, we look at his face to see if he is minor. If he is always minor, we can just make sure that to follow him at the very beginning so he doesn't. Because what happens, not only somebody buys without showing ID, somebody can steal, a minor can steal. This is a problem too. So this is why we always make sure who is entering this, who comes and who enters in the store. I have 3 kids, I have grandchild. I know how important it is, and I personally totally 100% agree with this 21 years limit, because it's if children are drinking, it's a medical problem, it's a social problem, and it's at the end of the day, it's a problem for all of us. And I know that this license has given to me, this is a privilege and a very big responsibility. And this is our, not only because of license, this is our civil duty to make sure that country and people around us, they are obeying the law and nothing harm to them happen.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Duffy, do you have any questions of Mr. Kapoor?
I have no question, although I do have a comment in reference to his being proactive and having an ID checker. And I much appreciate his explanation in reference to admitting his guilt, as well as his security in reference to not chasing an individual once he understands the individual of being of proper age. I just want to commend him on his explanation and explaining thoroughly his justification for his behavior, as well as him being proactive in everything that he did on the evening of September the 5th, 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. With that, we'll turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I also want to thank him for his comments about the police and being aware of the police, and they're doing great things for us. So thank you for that. I'm going to make a motion at this point to have the individual fined $500 for both counts. We'll combine the counts and make it a $500 fine. And I'll look for a second there.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion to just include the cost of a hearing.
It would include the cost of the hearing too. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second? Obviously, that is a
Yes.
second. Okay.
That's the second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you so much.
Next case is going to be Edgewater Liquors Incorporated. All right, this is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling Edgewater Liquors Incorporated, known as Edgewater Liquors, Inc. Richard F. Spies, President, Karen Leah Acosta, Secretary, Michael M. Buckley, Manager, Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Greg Wright, number 2029. The inspector is Mark A. Mucklebauer. It's a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license with beer, wine tasting and Sunday privileges, located at 54 Central Avenue in Edgewater, Maryland, 21037. There's no restrictions on the licenses, and the violations are violation number 1 of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors. Reference Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729-551 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident was dated September 5th, 2021. Second violation of the alcoholic beverages, 1, Titles 1 through 12, the Annotated Code of Maryland. Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729-551 by Detective Greg Wright, 2029, and Detective Middleton, 1061. The incident dated September 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against in this case, please raise your right hands. Okay. All right. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Please state your name and addresses for the record one at a time. We'll start with the detective. Well, it's okay, either one.
Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, assigned to Western District.
Karen Acosta, 3505 Macklefish Lane, Edgewater, Maryland.
Michael Grote, 9100 Du Bois Road, Charlotte Hall, Maryland.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Arthur?
Yes. My name is Sarah Arthur, ARTHUR. I'm counsel for Edgewater Liquors.
Thank you. Mr. Fraley?
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Detective Middleton, if you could please read your report.
Yes, sir. This was September 5th, 2021, approximately 12:53 in the afternoon. Detective Wright and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter Edgewater Liquors, located at 54 West Central Avenue in Edgewater, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The CS went to the store, picked out an 18-pack of natural light beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, was able to purchase the natural light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that natural light beer is an alcoholic beverage. I entered the store, identified myself as a police officer, and identified the clerk as manager Michael Buckley Grote, 3361 via his Maryland driver's license. He advised that he did not ask for identification. He also advised that he's been working 27 years at the store, and he expressed his frustration because the people wearing masks, and was explaining further to me that he uses reading glasses, and he has issue with his trying to ask for identification with his reading glasses, while he's selling at the register. He then was obviously very frustrated, very upset over the incident. And he said, "This is my last day. I can't take it anymore." He says he was leaving the store. A photograph was taken of Mr. Grote, his driver's license attached to the report, and a photograph was taken of the Natural Light beer, and it was destroyed. The copy of the report was sent to Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. The only thing I would add is, we have a certified copy of the identification of our, to verify that our confidential source was 19 years of age when he entered the establishment for this detail. That would be a statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Detective. Ms. Arthur, any questions of Detective Middleton based on that report?
Just two questions. First, Officer Middleton, this was about 10 of 1 on Sunday afternoon, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the underage person, they were wearing a black mask and a baseball cap?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Detective Middleton based on the report?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Arthur, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your client's case by way of testimony or proffer. We'll turn it over to you in mitigation.
Thank you very much. We're not arguing with the facts as presented by Corporal Middleton, but we would like to be heard in mitigation on this matter. First, a little bit about the history. This liquor license is 63 years old. It goes back to 1958. The current licensees, Rick Spees and Karen Acosta, brother and sister. It was their father that originally took out the license. He put it in the name of Edgewater Liquors in 1963. 35 years ago, he turned over the operation to Karen and Rick. They both work, well, Karen still works in the store. Rick is no longer able to for health reasons. But it is a family-owned business and operation with long-standing employees. They have currently 17 employees. 2 of those employees are Ms. Acosta's sons, who are 32 and 34. They eventually will be taking over operation of the liquor store. They are currently managers. One of the initiatives that her sons have made is to put a point of service with card readers in the store. They initiated that in April of this past year. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, it will not go into place, fingers crossed, until January of 2022. But they recognize with all the issues and problems, masks just being one of them, that is really the only way they can ensure that this is not a problem for their store. I want to go back to the 63 years was significant because I think they've really only had one violation in those 63 years. They have an exemplary record. And part of the reason is they don't have a reputation in the community for selling to minors. Kids don't bother to come there and even try. And they know their customers, they know their clients, and they get to know them. They know who's coming in and coming out. So they're very responsible that way. Also, they have long-standing employees. You heard Mr. Grote say he's been there for 27 years and he did not quit. He was upset and frustrated. I hope it became clear with himself in this situation that he let everyone down with regards to it. He feels very responsible for it, but he has been a long-standing and very trustworthy employee, important to the business. They rely on him a great deal. They have another employee that's been there 34 years. There are other some employees, more than half of them have been there at least 10 years. They are all alcohol awareness trained. Anyone that is working in that store, even the part-timers, have training. They had a delay in doing that because of the pandemic. They were down to only 4 as of June of 2021. But when they were able to bring in the trainers for alcohol awareness, they got everyone certified again. They also have been, they've got management agreements on file as well, including for Karen's 2 sons. That would be Logan and Ben Wolf. Those are Karen's sons, and you should have both alcohol awareness certificates for them and also management agreements for them. So as you can see, a mistake was made, but it was, you know, quite frankly, it was not intentional. They're very remorseful. It was a Sunday afternoon, not even 1 o'clock. They just let their guard down, and in that moment, the violation occurred. I would ask that the board take that into consideration in deciding their fate in this case. They're happy to answer any questions, but I hope I've given you a good sense of this business and how responsible they are and what an asset they are to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arthur. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Ms. Arthur or the licensee or the clerk that are with us tonight?
I've got a couple of comments. You've given us a great sense of the business, and I thank you for that. It's been around a long time, and it does have a great reputation. I just, as you say, it was a mistake. It was a mistake because selling to minors is a very serious thing. So yeah, that's all the comments I'm going to make. But thank you for that sense of the business.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions or comments of Ms. Arthur or the licensee or the clerk?
No, I'd just like to piggyback on the chairman comment and thank Ms. Arthur for her explaining the 35 years that the son and daughter has been over this particular establishment, Edgewater Liquor, and the fact that they're being proactive in ordering a card reader that would take effect in January. I want to comment them on that, as well as employing individuals of the local community that have decided to stay with them for an extended period of time. So I want to congratulate her as well as Edgewater Liquor for maintaining socioeconomic status within the community in and of itself. And that's all. I have no other comments or questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Mr. Arthur, anything you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate the board's efforts. We certainly are respectful of the police officers' duties and responsibilities. And like I said, we're taking every possible step to ensure that this never happens again.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll leave it to the board for deliberation and decision. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we fine the establishment $500 and court costs, and looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was thinking of something I mentioned a note about. I don't know if it's on TV.
Mr. Harris, you're muted.
38.
I apologize.
No, not a problem. I
This
saw your lips
is
moving.
Chief Inspector Wayne Harris for the Liquor Board. I'm calling the third case, which is Liquor Mart and Deli, known as Liquor Mart and Deli, Inc. Kenneth E. Schwartz, Vice President, Amy S. Applestein, Clerk, Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, and Detective T. Middleton, number 1061. The inspector is Liam M. Benton for the Liquor Board. This is a Class A license, beer, wine, and liquor with beer, wine, tasting, and Sunday privileges, located at 100 Defense Highway in Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. There are no restrictions on this license as of this date. We have two violations. The first one being a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors, reference Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729552 by Detective Greg Wright, 2029, and Detective Middleton, 1061. The incident was dated September 5th, 2021. This is a violation. The second violation of the Alcohol Beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland. Title 6. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something. Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individuals under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729552 by Detective Greg Wright, 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident dated September 5th, 2021. Okay, I'm going to ask anyone who wishes to testify for or against, please raise your right hand so we can see him. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record. We'll start with the detective.
Detective Tom Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, currently assigned to Western District.
Thank you. Mr. or Mrs. Applestein.
Amy Applestein, 2428 Cheyenne Drive, Gambrills, Maryland, 21404.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schwartz.
Kenneth Schwartz, 500 Martingale Lane, Arnold, Maryland, 21012.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you when you speak, would you please make sure that we can see you, the video? All right. Thank you. Mr. Fraley, sir.
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Detective, if you could please start by reading your report.
Yes, sir. Once again, this was on Sunday, September 5th of 2021. This year, this was approximately 1:35 in the afternoon. Detective Greg Wright and myself were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses here in Anne Arundel County. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, subject to enter the Liquor Mart and Deli at 100 Defense Highway in Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. The CS went into the store, picked out a variety pack of Bud Light Seltzer, and took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Bud Light Seltzer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. The confidential source exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that Bud Light Seltzer is an alcoholic beverage. I entered the store, identified myself as a police officer, identified the clerk as Miss Amy Applestein by her Maryland driver's license. She advised that she forgot to ask for identification. She advised that she has been working at the store for 28 years. And it had been a long time since the last violation. A photograph was taken of Miss Applestein, her driver's license, and attached to the report, a photograph was taken of the Bud Light Seltzer, and it was destroyed. The photograph was also taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license hanging on the wall behind the cashier. Our CS was verified through Maryland MVA certified records as being 19 years of age, and that would be my statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Detective. Ms. Applestein, Mr. Schwartz, do you have any questions of the detective based on his reading of the report?
No, I do.
No.
Okay, great. Mr. Chairman, any questions of the detective?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, I'd just like to ask if Ms. Applestein was cooperative during the sting.
Yes, very, very polite, very cooperative, and she was very apologetic, very surprised that she got caught in the incident, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for Detective Middleton. I
All
have
right,
no
thank-
question.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Ms. Applestein, Mr. Schwartz, this is your opportunity to present your case to the board in mitigation, so we'll turn it over to you.
So first, I want to obviously apologize. My horrible error in judgment has brought us here today. I have been there for 28 years. My family's proudly owned and operated this store for 40 years, and this has never occurred. While it is absolutely no excuse with the mask and the baseball hat, I failed to do an adequate job in asking for his ID, which I'm so truly embarrassed and sorry for. We're taking multiple steps, starting with myself, and to ensure that the rest of our staff takes extra precaution so that this occurrence does not happen again. And I do, like I said, I certainly apologize.
My daughter basically said what should be said. And this is something that happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. We've been here 40 years and obviously we're not in the business to sell to somebody that's underage. This fell through the cracks. It shouldn't have, but it did. And we're very sorry for it. But we are making sure that everybody in here, I have some people that have worked for me since I've been here. One man's 40 years, the other man's about 30 years. And Amy's been with me so long. And again, we are sorry that this happened, but we hope that it never, ever happen again.
All right, thank you both. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I've got a question, and it's for Ms. Appleton. You had mentioned that you had taken steps yourself, and then your employees have taken steps. Could you be more specific on what steps you've taken so that this doesn't happen again?
Oh, sir, excuse me. Certainly, we are going to have everyone redo and be fully, tips trained. We have all been through the tips training, which is extremely crucial. And we are going through and making sure that everybody is fully aware of what the actual protocols are. Masks or no masks. I mean, we're going to be in this for a long time, I think, with the masks. But to make sure, so we are being more diligent about carding and making sure that we're 100% sure that that individual is of age, so that does not occur ever again here.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Is it just to piggyback on the commissioner question in reference to steps? Are you saying that you are implementing ID check or card readers? This is to
I'm sorry, ID check.
Yes, go right ahead now.
ID check.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the other part of it. You said ID checks and
No, ID check card readers to check verification of age and proper age and all. Are you installing that, taking initial
Absolutely.
steps to order those items?
we absolutely are. And the good part is that, we've been here for 40 years and we have such a wonderful clientele that we service in the community and the neighboring communities around us. But we are not taking anything, light and for granted. And we're making sure that everyone is properly carded, even more so. We're enforcing that policy after September the 5th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have no additional question.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll turn it over to the board for decision on this matter, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, sometimes when you've been in business and you've served a long time, you get complacent, and that's not a good thing. But anyway, I'm going to make a motion that we fine the establishment $500, combine both counts and court costs. And I look for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, obviously, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you
very
too.
much.
This is in Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling the fourth case. That's Mayo Liquors. Mayo Liquors, known as Mayo Liquors LLC. Surinder Singh Sanhu, Managing Member, and Sanhu Sen Sona, Clerk. Detective Greg Wright, 2029, and Detective T. Middleton, 1061. Liquor Inspector is Mark A. Mucklebauer. This is a Class A license, beer, wine, and liquor, with beer, wine, and spirit tasting privileges, as well as Sunday privileges. 200 Mayo Road and London Town Road, Edgewater, Maryland. There are no restrictions on this license. The violations are as follows: a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729549 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. Incident dated September 5th, 2021. Second is a violation of the Alcoholic Beverages 1, Title 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304. Selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-729549 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident dated September 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hands. Okay, keep your hand up, sir. Thank you. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I assume everybody acknowledged. I'd like to ask everyone to repeat their name and address for the record. We'll start with the detective.
Detective Tom Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, Western District.
Surinder Sandhu, 324 Highland Drive, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037.
Durinder Sandhu, 220B Hilltop Lamb, Annapolis, Maryland.
And I'm Brian Lyman, Lyman, counsel for the licensee.
Okay, thank you all. Mr. Praley.
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Detective Middleton, please read your report, sir.
Yes. It's September 5th, 2021, approximately 12:20 hours. Detective Greg Wright, myself are working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses in Anne Arundel County. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, to enter Mayo Liquors, located at 200 Mayo Road in Edgewater, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store, picked out a 6-pack of Corona Light beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Corona Light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that Corona Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. I entered the store, identified myself as a police officer, and identified the clerk as, sorry for the pronunciation, is it Sanheev Sin Sona, with the date of birth of July 25th, 1986. Mr. Sona did not have any form of identification on his person. He did advise that he forgot to ask the confidential source for identification. Photograph was taken on Mr. Sona and of the Anne Arundel County liquor license and attached to this report. Photograph was taken of the Corona Light beer and it was destroyed. The confidential source was verified through Maryland MVA with a certified record of for age, that he was 19 years of age, the date he went into the store. And that would be my statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Detective Middleton. Mr. Lyman, any questions of the detective based on his reading of the report?
Yeah, just first off, Detective Middleton, do you happen to have a copy of the certified record that you reviewed to acquire your knowledge of the confidential source's age as of September 5th, 2021?
Yes, sir.
All right, I just asked that that record be admitted as an exhibit to this hearing. I assume Detective Middleton is able to submit that to the board and the board staff.
It was obtained on June 15th of 2021. I have it right here.
Very well.
Okay. One other question, Detective Middleton, was the clerk cooperative with you?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other issues that you observed with the establishment while you were there, aside from this underage service?
No, just the only issue was that he didn't have any identification on him to like just prove who he was. That was the only issue we had.
Okay. And your spelling of his name is phonetic then? Is that accurate in this report?
That's what he provided to us on the date of the incident.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Is this the same confidential source that we've heard about in the prior 3 cases? An individual wearing a black mask and a black hat?
That's correct. Same day.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions of the detective? Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman, you're on mute.
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Detective Middleton?
Yes, a follow-up question to Detective Middleton. Can CS be utilized more than once for sting operation?
Yes, generally we only on a one particular day when we go out and do a operation save compliance check, we usually hit about 10 places, and we use the same confidential source for that entire detail. It wouldn't be advantageous to have a different one to take to each different establishment. So it's every time we do a compliance check, that particular day, we just use one confidential source.
So it wouldn't be feasible to utilize more than one.
Correct.
For a save operation.
Correct.
Thank you, Detective Middleton.
Okay.
I have no additional questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Mr. Lyman, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your case by way of proffer or testimony or a combination of both. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley. My clients have elected to admit the violation. Detective Middleton had the proper documents to show the confidential source was underage. And I'd like to proceed by way of proffer as far as mitigation.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley. Mr. Commissioner or Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Duffy, I'd like to give you just a little history of this Mayo Liquors store. My office was involved in rehabilitating this store and getting this store open back in 2014. Mr. Singh is the owner of several Subway establishments here in the county and has been a businessman in Anne Arundel County for a number of years and has contributed significantly to the tax revenue and employment for the economy and the local economy here. He came to us and wanted to get into the liquor business, and that was back in 2012. It took us approximately 2 years to get this license transferred to him and to get all the approvals for the appropriate build out to get this store back in operational shape and open it to the public. It had been dormant for a number of years. And when I say dormant, it had been squeaking by on a one sale type situation and was really kind of an issue at the corner here of Mayo Road and Londonville Road. And I don't want to call it a blight necessarily, but in the past 7 years, my client has significantly improved the appearance of the building and made it into a particularly viable business. He has approximately 95% of his customers are regulars. And I will say, by way of explanation for this violation, that's what occurred on this Sunday afternoon. The clerk has been working and his tips and tams trained, and he's been working in there for about 5 years. He knows many of the store's regulars, and they happen to get jammed up. They rarely have a line, but there were 6 or 7 people in line, and he was trying to speed the process along. And he thought he recognized the confidential source, a 19-year-old. He was wearing a black hat and a mask. That's what the clerk has explained to me. And he's very sorry. He made this mistake. Mr. Singh duly reamed him out, tried to figure out what had happened here. And we're here to basically explain to the board that this is a situation that they're putting steps in place to prevent from happening again. They already have a card scanner that they use in cases where they don't recognize the customer and who present to be under 30 years of age. They're re-examining that policy. I think that they don't have that many staff members at this store. They have basically 2 folks who usually are there and run this store. And they do recognize most of their customers. Their customer base are locals who come in and live in the neighborhood and live in the area down in Edgewater and appreciate the quick service that they get at the store. That's not an excuse. It's not really a defense. It's an explanation for what happened on this day. And my clients do take the duties and the responsibilities very seriously. They understand the seriousness of this issue and their privilege of serving alcohol to the public. And they understand that minors are not supposed to be able to purchase alcohol. They have policies in place, and this was a case, and it's kind of trite to say it, but it was mistaken identity, and it was earnest. The clerk really did believe this individual to be a regular. They went as far as asking the regular when he came in to provide a copy of his driver's license. And I looked at it, and it looked like it was a pretty close match. The gentleman's the same height. He's about 30 years of age, and he's a regular. He purchases there about once a week. And the clerk just mistook him and was interested in trying to move the line along. With that, I will ask the board to consider potential merger of the counts. You do one thing wrong and you get rung up on 2 counts here because there's a violation of the board's rules and of the statute in the state of Maryland. And I would just ask the board to consider that this licensee has had no violations. They've had this license since 2014 with no violations whatsoever. I believe that they passed all the prior stings or save actions that Detective Middleton or other officers have tested them with over the years. And I would just ask that the board do what's fair here and render a decision that's appropriate and proportionate with this, and that will help them be able to stay open and be an active member of the community here and to provide the services that they provide with this license. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Mr. Lyman or his clients?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, I have no question.
All right, Mr. Lyman, anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation?
Nothing further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, it looks like you're right. Identity issue with mags and hats, etc. So, I'm sorry that happened, and I'm going to go forward and make a motion to fine the establishment $500 and court costs, combining both cases or both counts, excuse me. And I'm looking for a second on that.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
Second the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Duffy.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're calling the next case, El Buen Sabor Restaurant and Bar, known as Sin Fronteras Cafe LLC. Zoila Romero, member. Walter Vasquez, member. Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris was the inspector in this case. This is a Class H license for beer, wine, and liquor, and Sunday licenses. excuse me, privileges. 7748 Ritchie Highway, Unit 15A, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061, with no restrictions. The violations are as follows: a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Section 3. Chapter 3, Section 3.01. Ownership and operation. RE, the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, violation notice number 1155 by Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris, dated September 22nd, 2021. The second is a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.02, cooperation. RE, the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, violation notice 1155 by Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris, dated September 22nd, 2021. The third is a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.03, records. Reference a violation notice 1155 by Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris, dated September 22nd, 2021. And the fourth and final is a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 3, Section 3.13, trade names. Reference a violation notice of 1155 by Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris, dated September 22nd, 2021. I'm going to ask anyone wishing to testify for or against, which will include myself, to please come forward, and will be sworn in by Mr. Aronson. No, you're muted, Mr. Aronson.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Vasquez, you're on mute.
You hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
got you now.
Okay, good.
My name is Wayne Harris. I'm the Chief Inspector for Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, Annapolis, Maryland.
And Mr. Vasquez, I'm assuming you said you answered in the affirmative about answering everything truthfully and accurately.
Yes.
Okay, great. If you could go ahead and put your name and address on the record for us, and whoever's behind you, if they're going to testify as well.
Walter Vasquez, 108 Fifth Avenue, Southeast, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
109 Edgewater Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 2143. Soyla Romero.
And sir, the gentleman behind you, Mr. Vasquez, is he going to testify?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, Chief Inspector Harris, if you don't mind reading your report for us, sir.
Yes, sir. This establishment, the reports in the name of Beverages, 7748 Ritchie Highway, Unit 15A, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061 by myself. The trade name and management agreement and cooperation and record keeping are the violations. It reads as follows: on 9/21/21, this chief inspector had received information from Inspector Earl W. Barnes that an establishment that was known to him as El Buen Sabor was open for business under a new name and had not been aware of any name changes through the board. He went on to say that the business had all their signs changed to read Super Taco Oaxaca. Inspector Barnes requested assistance in checking to see if permission had been given, and if not, what to do next. I informed Inspector Barnes that I would check the files here at the office, and if I did not find any transfer, sale, or anything approving the name change, I would follow up and get back to him. He informed me that he was about to go on a family vacation and may not be available. He was leaving that day, is what he said to me. I told him I would do the following investigation myself. At about 11:30 a.m. the same day, I went to the above location. Once arriving, I noticed 4 or 5 signs on the building in the name of Super Taco Oaxaca. Please see the attached photos. There were no signs in the name of El Buen Sabor anywhere on the premises that I could find. I entered the business, identified myself to the barmaid / waitress, who was later identified as Guadalupe Arias, and asked if the licensee was on the premises or if there was a manager. She said that the manager was in the kitchen and went to get him. Mr. Javier Gonzalez appeared and told me he was the manager. After identifying myself, I asked him if he had a copy of the manager's agreement with his name on it, and he answered no. I then asked him if he knew, was I referring to, and he said yes. Mr. Walter Vasquez was handling all the paperwork concerning the manager's agreement with the liquor board. I then explained to the situation concerning the signage, the name change, and asked to see all of his license. He pointed to the wall where 4 licenses were that were required to be and were posted. After looking at the licenses on the wall, I found only one in the name of El Buen Sabor, which was the liquor license, and found the health department license and the Maryland retail sales tax license was in the name of Super Taco. They did have a proper fire capacity sign on the premises, but there was no trader's license as required by law. Mr. Gonzalez said that he did not know where it was, but he would try to find it. Before leaving, I informed Mr. Gonzalez I would send his assigned inspector in the near future to do an annual inspection on all the licenses and certificates, etc., and that he should be prepared for it. On 9/22/21, I returned on the above named establishment at about 11:40 a.m. and again found no licensee or manager whose name appeared on the manager's agreement on the property. Second day in a row, I spoke to Miss Aries again, who told me that she was alone and with the exception of the kitchen help. I asked if she could call Mr. Gonzalez, and she agreed to do so. After speaking to Mr. Gonzalez, he said he would call the licensee and have him call me. I did get a call from Mr. Walter Vasquez, who was one of the 2 licensees for El Buen Sabor, who stated he was working on the manager's agreement and transfer papers as well, and that he was speaking to Judy Hagner and Eddie Aronson, which is to identify them as the administrator and executive director for the liquor board. I informed Mr. Walter Vasquez that I was issuing a written citation number 1155 for 313 trade name violation, 3.02 cooperation, 3.03 records, and 3.01 ownership, and 3.01 C management agreement. After explaining the charges, I asked Mr. Vasquez if he had any problems with me asking the barmaid or waitress to sign for the copy of the violation because he wasn't on the premises, and he said no, he did not have a problem. I then had her sign the violation and requested she make Mr. Vasquez make sure Mr. Vasquez got a copy of that violation, and she agreed. It should be noted that I observed an outside service area not attached to the building, which needed an outside service letter. So that was just for information for them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Vasquez appears to have disappeared.
Oops.
Mr. Aronson, are you there? Oh, hold on. It looks like he's reconnecting.
I am there.
All right. Sorry, Eddie. It looks like Walter's reconnecting here.
Coming back.
All right. There you are. Can you hear us, Mr. Vasquez? Mr. Vasquez, can you hear us? Mr. Vasquez, can you hear us? You can't hear. Eddie, should we try to give him the phone number to see if he can call in?
Yeah, either that or he can log out and try and re-log in.
Yeah, he can't. I don't think he can hear anything.
You cannot hear us at all. I'll send him a chat.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's up to you if we want to sit here and wait or if we want to move ahead to the next case and come back. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you're muted also.
Okay, I was saying that I will allow just a little time
Okay.
to work with Mr. Valdez, since we're in the middle of the
Sorry, we were,
serious.
Oh, there he is.
well, for some reason it got disconnected, but I'm back in. Okay.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Do you have any questions of Chief Inspector Harris based on his reading of the report?
I think it's accurate.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of Mr. Harris?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Harris.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Chief Inspector Harris?
No, no questions. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez, this is your opportunity to present your case to the board. You can do so by way of proffering, or you can ask the individuals with you who have been sworn a series of questions. But this is your one opportunity to present your case in mitigation to the board. So I'll turn it over to you, okay?
All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Walter Vasquez here and my business partner, Fela Romero here. We very sorry that we had to go this. We had no experience. We had no knowledge about this. Normally, we've been doing business here for many years and we never had any problems. I always try to keep everything, but we were not. And besides that, that was the timing of the pandemic. A lot of offices were closed. I don't try to make an excuse. I would take responsibility for what happened. But since that, we found out there were those mistakes. Now we fixing El Taco, Super Taco Oaxaca will take care of the whole thing. Our names are being taken off from the license with the proper documentation and everything. So everything is being taken care of. I had to sincerely apologize that we put you through this, but it was an honest, not any premeditated mistake that we made.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to know what happened here from your point of view, other than COVID and the other things. I mean, there seems to be name changes, seems to be records that weren't posted. I mean, any comments on that?
Well, what happened is we were the original owners. So we sold it to one of the guys at Buen Sabor, and we gave them a a management agreement while they're going to transfer the license. But then the guys didn't do too well, and Mr. Javier, his sister, took it over, and she was supposed to take care, but she got really ill. Unfortunately, she passed. Unfortunately, and a lot of things went up in the air, and it was kind of a very difficult time for everyone, and it was pretty much, we should have done this, but we have no idea how much she had worked onto that too, unfortunately. So it was one of those mistakes that it happened, but unfortunately, like I said, she couldn't, do what she was supposed to do, which was change and transferring all the names into her. And didn't have the time, unfortunately.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Duffy, any questions of Mr. Vasquez?
No question. Just that my condolences goes out to you and to the establishment and all your employees for the loss of an individual that you place so much faith in to accomplish the given task.
Thank you.
And I have no other comments or questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Mr. Vasquez, anything you'd like to add before the board deliberates on this?
No, just to consider that we're really sorry that everything it is taken care of. We have a person, and Javier put a lot of work into that. So everything is going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. Lesson learned, and hopefully you give us the chance to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasquez. With that, we'll turn it over to the board, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question for Wayne Harris.
Yes, sir.
And I just want to check this happened back in September of 29 or September 22. Are we back in good graces? I mean, that's 6 weeks ago.
Actually, I visited El Buen Sabor / the taco on November 12th. And when I did, they did have some of the documents that they were required, but they still were not in the same names or the proper names for the establishment. Now, they're also missing the certificate of use, certificate of good standing, the workman's compensation certificate, an outside service letter, and a management agreement. So there's still 5 outstanding documents, and they're pretty much the same 5 that they were missing during the initial visit. They did display I think it was the trader's license that was missing. They did have that. But right now, as of the 12th of November, and they were still short 5 of the documents. And I did speak to Mr. Gonzalez, who assured me that he was in conference with Mr. Vasquez about securing those documents.
Okay, and when do you think we'll get those secured? Mr. Vasquez?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm under the impression because he hired someone specifically to do that. So it's Mr. Perez, who is a very expert on the matter. And he is, he going to give you, I can ask him to give you a call to see if he has, or I don't know if he's online too. I think he's online in this conference. So he can easily tell you how far they have moved forward. Because in all fairness, that's what we want. We want is be able to drop off her name, my name. They have already the person who's going to be transferring the license to and take everything like brand new. That's the only opportunity we're asking you to give us the chance.
Well,
But,
I'm all for it, but I'm just wondering why it's taken so long.
I think they already have it. If I can, I can easily call the guy and ask him. Oh, I don't know if he's online or not, but.
Yeah, Mr. Perez did come to the liquor board and I spoke to him, and he's working diligently to get that transfer application in.
Thank you.
Okay.
He's actually on the call today. Just he wanted to make sure everything was, he knew what he had to do. But yeah, he's been in contact. We don't have the application yet, but I know that they're working on it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you. No, where are we? I have no questions at this point.
I'm going to give, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right with you, I'm going to give Mr. Vasquez the opportunity to ask any follow-up questions to Chief Inspector Harris based on your line of questioning. Mr. Vasquez, do you have any additional questions of Chief Inspector Harris based on the chairman's questioning?
No.
Well, that was easy. So with that, we'll turn it over to the board for deliberation and an ultimate decision on this matter.
Okay, this is a little tough one. Talking about records, trade names, it's more or less more clerical than anything else, which is not to say that it's not important. It is important. And I'm happy to see that things are moving forward with Mr. Perez and our administrative staff. Appreciate that. So I'm going to turn it over to Otis for his comments, and then we can decide what we're going to do.
But I appreciate Mr. Aronson interjecting, interceding in reference to the clients contacting our office in reference to rectifying the situation. And though it was 4 or 5 complaints that Chief Harrison indicated at the time of the write-up, and the cooperation wasn't a part of it. inclined to fine them to include court costs, hearing costs of $500 because of the extent and not following through or following up on the write-up of Chief Harrison initially.
Okay, we'll put that in, it's in the form of a motion and I'll second that. So hearing that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a
All
good
right.
evening. Mr.
Thank you.
Vasquez, I will stop by if he has his documents, I'll stop by and complete the report for you.
No problem.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next case will be the wine box, known as Vaishi Inc. Vaishali Patel, President, Inspector Wayne B. Harris, Chief Inspector. There's no restrictions. This is a Class D license for beer, wine, and liquor, dancing and Sunday license located at 1670 Annapolis Road, Odenton, Maryland, 2113. It's a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of Licenses for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.16, illegal conduct. Reference the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County violation notice 1151 by Chief Inspector Wayne B. Harris dated September 12th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please come forward, raise your right hand, and I'm going to ask our administrator, Mr. Aronson, to swear us in.
You solemnly declare and affirm on the penalty of perjury, testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I heard it. It was an affirmative. It was an affirmative response.
Okay. Chief Inspector Wayne Harris, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, 2660 Riva Road, Annapolis, Maryland.
Vaishali Patel, 7509, Heading Code, Hanover, Maryland, 21076.
And I'm Brian Lyman, Lyman, on behalf of the licensee, Vashi Inc. and Vaishali Patel, the president.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lyman. Chief Inspector Harris, you know the drill. If you don't mind reading your report, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Praley. Chief Inspector Wayne Harris, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. The establishment is the Wine Box located at 1670 Annapolis Road, Odenton, Maryland. Violation is 4.16 illegal conduct, class violation. Date of the report is 9/12/2021 by myself. It reads as follows. On 9/8/2021, while doing an annual inspection and observation for an up-and-coming transfer or sale, this inspector noticed a large portion of the establishment appeared to be non-operational. The area known as Kim's Bar and Lounge was not in operation. The area was full of stored materials and had no furniture in place. The doors were off the hinges, the interior doors, that is. And then I also took some photos which are attached. After checking with the administration and further investigation, as well as speaking to the present licensee, I discovered that the bar area had not been used for several years, even prior to the pandemic, and had never been reopened even after it could have been. The bar was used primarily for storage. The licensee, Mrs. Patel, did state that she had no intention to open the bar business, even after the COVID pandemic executive orders were ended. Due to the application submitted to the board, she also stated she was not sure what the new licensees had in mind. On this date, I observed a violation. I issued a violation served. Number 1151, citing 4.16 illegal conduct, failing to act according to the class of license. I have attached a copy of the applicant's plan with the red line changes that I made showing the the present layout that the board should be aware of and the retail area as shown on the plans. It is this inspector's opinion that the wine box and Kim's had not operated as a Class D license for many years. Please see the attached violation notice, drawings, and photos. And I submitted those as well.
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Mr. Lyman, your chance to ask Chief Inspector Harris any questions.
Mr. Harris, was the licensee cooperative with you when you discussed the situation during your inspection?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And she made you aware that there was a pending transfer application for this establishment. Is that correct?
Yes, she did, and I was aware of that. That was the reason I did the initial visit.
Okay. Is it your policy to go out and visit other establishments upon situation like this where there's an application for transfer pending to see if they're in class compliance?
It is under the new duties of the full-time chief inspector, which I hold. It is the duties of that chief inspector to go out and check for and on behalf of the board, the drawings, the layout, the dimensions relative to any transfer, sale, or whatever. It wasn't my intent when I went there wasn't to necessarily check on a violation of the class of license. But when I went in there to verify the drawing, which I have in front of me, and I'm sure you do as well, I noticed that it wasn't accurate. And when I examined the physical footprint of the building and I walked in the back, that's when I noticed that part that was prior used as a bar was not being used as a bar at all, or a tavern. As a matter of fact, no portion of the building itself had a counter or had anything where alcohol was readily available for sale or distribution.
Okay. And Mr. Harris, did you go back and check on the establishment after you wrote this initial report at any time?
Yes, actually twice. The one time I went back to get a summons signed, Mrs. Patel met me at the establishment and that was done. She informed me that they had cleaned the back up. I think is the way she put it. And I did go in the back of the business and she had cleaned up what was, like I say, an area that was basically used for storage, but she had no operational tables, chairs. There was no glasses. There was 6 bottles of alcohol on the counter, of which I noticed none of them had been opened at all. They were all still sealed. There was no glasses, or so every aspect of it, it wasn't operational as far as a tavern or bar.
But generally, would you characterize the storage situation as having been taken care of, and that a patron basically could go in and be in that particular area and sit at a bar or at a table in that area, unlike when you first visited?
Yes, I mean, is it physically possible for that to occur? Yes, but there was no signs of any activity that would say that was happening.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Chief Inspector Harris?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Lyman, we'll turn it back to you. You can present your case by way of testimony or proffer, or a combination of both.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley. We're going to admit the violation. Perhaps on a different day and different circumstance, there might be a bit more resistance, but given the nature of this particular situation, this was a combination of COVID and of what had come to pass, I think, in being used as a storage area, this rear portion of the establishment, over probably a number of months or years. And, frankly, I'm not entirely sure if the board has a specific policy that you must serve alcoholic beverages under your Class D license, or whether you can just operate it as a carryout. That aside, we will admit the violation. As Chief Inspector Harris pointed out, there was not an opportunity for customers to order a drink. And that's really what ought to be happening at a bar. This particular licensee is basically hoping to sell her establishment and to transfer the license to some folks who are interested in operating this establishment as a Class D. And you'll hear more about that from me later tonight, frankly. And as you heard from Chief Inspector Harris, the impetus for his visit and to discover this situation, which I would remind the board, retail establishments, liquor stores, restaurants and bars especially have been hard hit by COVID. Their staffing concerns have been an overriding factor in trying to figure out how to make businesses profitable and how to be efficient. And without customers asking to order drinks and use a bar, that wasn't something that this particular operator and my client decided to focus on, really cleaning up the front of the store. And I think if you ask, Chief Inspector Harris, the liquor store portion of this operation it's a nice operation, and it's a good operation, and it's well organized, and there haven't been any problems with that part of it. It was really just this rear bar area that fell into disrepair. They fell into the temptation of using it as a storage area, kind of like a big closet, if you will. And if you look at the photographs that Inspector Harris took, you can see that. There's all nature of things stored in that area. And we acknowledge that that's not what the license was for. And frankly, the new operators are going to take the establishment in the cleaned up state. And as I said, you'll hear more from me about the transfer and their plans for actually opening a bar and staffing it and offering drinks to the public. But as far as this operator goes, you've got our admission on the record. Frankly, I would just ask the board to be fair and reasonable with any penalties or fines it assesses. I will say that, Chief Inspector Harris, it was hard for me to tell that he even wrote the violation in the first place, because I couldn't understand from what was on the face of the notice violation what was wrong with the operation of the establishment. And I spent some time. I went in, I spoke to Chief Inspector Harris. I asked him about my client's demeanor, and I asked him to give me his frank assessment of what was going on. And we admit that the board's rules suggest that a Class D license ought to have a bar, and it ought to have hours where it's normally staffed, and it ought to be serving drinks. And that hasn't been happening at my client's establishment. And so we admit the violation, and we had asked the board to be fair, but consider that this is a situation where this operator is hoping to hand over the operation to someone who is going to make that part of their business model and plan, and to do what's fair in this situation. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ms. Patel?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Duffy?
No questions, sir.
All right, Mr. Lyman, anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Pirelli.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we fine the establishment $250 for the violations. And I'm looking for a second there.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's carried, and the motion carried, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Duffy.
Yep, thank you, and have a good evening. Okay, Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling the next case. This is Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's Grill and Bar, known as Chili's of Maryland, Inc. Sherry B. Smith, Assistant Secretary, Daniel S. Fuller, Vice President and Secretary, Christopher L. Greene, President and Treasurer. The inspector is Yvette Chang Fisher. This is a Class H beer, wine, and liquor license with music and Sunday privileges. Restrictions are as follows. On 6/27/2007, the license is unrestricted at the bar area and the waiting area shown on the floor plans. However, the service at the tables in the dining room, somewhat in the party, must purchase food. So That's the only active restriction. This is a transfer. Currently, William Russell Easby Smith, stockholder, and Sherry B. Smith, president, on behalf of the Seafood Inc., trading as Chili's Grill and Bar, 1715 West Nursery Road, Linthicum, Maryland, 21090. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Mr. Cohen, Ms. Smith, raise your right hand if you're going to testify. Okay. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, you're both muted. If you would unmute and answer.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry about
thank
that.
you. Yeah, thank you. Ms. Smith?
There I go.
Okay.
I am,
Okay, thank you. Mr. Praley?
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Ms. Schreckengoss, good to see you. This is your opportunity to present your case to the board. You can do so by way of testimony, proffer, or combination of both. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fraley. Good evening, Commissioners. Leanne Schreckengoss with Royston, Muller, McLean, and Reed here on behalf of Chili's Bar and Grill. I would like to proceed by way of proffer. As indicated, this is a transfer of the license for Chili's Grill and Bar from Seafood Inc. to Chili's of Maryland Inc. This was previously a franchise location, which is being purchased back by the franchisor. There is no change in the day-to-day operation of this restaurant as a result of this license transfer. Ms. Smith, who's on the line with you right now, is currently a licensee for this location and is remaining on as a licensee with Chili's of Maryland Inc. She's a longtime Anne Arundel County resident and registered voter. She's also the assistant secretary and a 1% shareholder of Chili's of Maryland Inc. I can proffer for the board that none of her personal information has changed since the time we filed this application. She's in receipt of the copy of this board's current rules and regulations and understands her continuing obligations as a licensee. With respect to the other two licensees, it's Christopher Greene and Daniel Fuller. Both of these gentlemen are in-house counsel with Brinker International, which is the parent company of Chili's Grill and Bar. They are actually also current licensees in Anne Arundel County with the Maggianos, which is another concept under the Brinker umbrella. Mr. Greene is the president and treasurer of Chili's of Maryland Inc., as well as a 20% shareholder. And Mr. Fuller is the vice president and secretary of Chili's of Maryland Inc. and is also a 20% shareholder. There's one change in Mr. Greene's information on his personal financial form. It indicates that he's divorced. He actually got married last month. So between the time the application was filed and now, that's the only change in his personal information. Other than that, there are no changes to any of their personal information, and neither of them had any felony convictions or violations of the alcoholic beverage laws or gambling laws. I can confirm that they also have received a copy of this board's current rules and regulations and understand their continuing responsibility as license holders to this board and to the Anne Arundel County community. This location has 19 bar stools, 127 table seats, and 16 seats on the patio. There are 64 employees, 41 of whom are front of the house, and all of them go through responsible alcohol awareness training, which is an internal training that the Chili's program or that Brinker International has for all their employees. And in addition to that, all of the managers at these locations are certified in a state-approved serve-safe alcohol awareness training. This location averages about 83% food to 17% alcohol. They currently have 6 individuals who are registered managers with this board. Their hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Their carding policy is to card anyone who looks under 30. With that, I would ask the board to approve this transfer and turn it over to you for any further questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Schreckengoss. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no question.
All right, Ms. Schreckengoss, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer. And thank you for that presentation. And looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you all very much. Great to see you again.
Thank you and have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
All right, we're getting ready to call. This is Inspector Wayne Harris. We're calling the next case, Lively Liquors, known as Han's Family Enterprise, Inc. Soik Jin Han, President, and Young C. Frazio, Assistant Secretary. There are no restrictions on this license. This is a request for a transfer currently. Vadish Patel, president on behalf of Vadish Incorporated, trading as the Wine Box, 1670 Annapolis Road, Odenton, Maryland. This is a Class D license, beer, wine, liquor, with dancing and Sunday license privileges. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hands. Okay, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Sorry, please answer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Hahn?
Okay, Seo Khan, 10671 Grand Hana Drive, Lowell, Maryland, 2073.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Fazio?
2004 Brigadier Boulevard, Odenton, Maryland, 21113.
And your name?
Yom Fazio.
Thank you. And I'm Brian Lyman, Lyman, on behalf of the applicants before the board for transfer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Braley?
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Mr. Lyman, you can go ahead and present your case to the board. You may do so by way of testimony, proffer, or combination of both.
I'll proceed by way of proffer. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Duffy, here I am again with the same address and the same establishment that we just heard about. This has been known as the Wine Box, but these clients have plans to run the front of the store in the same way that it has been running, basically as a carry-out liquor store, selling beer, wine, and liquor to the general public, perhaps some tobacco products. And they also have plans to operate the rear of the house as a bar, at least to start. And that has to do with kind of the logistics and potentially the overhead of actually staffing and operating the bar. The hours that they're expecting to try to operate this bar are going to be from 6 p.m. until 1 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and 6 p.m. until probably 10, 11, or maybe midnight on the other nights during the week. They've been thoroughly briefed on the situation in Mr. Harris's previous report. They've been here in my office and heard the presentation and know about the requirement of a Class D license before this board. I would submit to you that Mrs. Fazio is a previous licensee at this same establishment. She was the licensee a number of years ago before Vaishali Patel became the owner of the establishment, and she operated it as Kim's Bar and Lounge, which had a bar and lounge and had to-go sales as well. She was a fit and qualified person before the board back then, and she remains a fit and qualified person today before the board. Let me tell you a little bit about the majority investor, Mr. Siak Han. Mr. Han is primarily investing in this as his family business. He's putting up the capital to make the purchase and to make certain modest improvements potentially to the operation and to purchase the inventory and get this business started. But it's going to be his brother who's going to manage the establishment. That's Mr. Austin Han, who's seated here to my left on the far end of the table. Both of these brothers have been involved in the alcohol business here in Anne Arundel County for in excess of 10 years. Mr. Han actually just recently appeared in front of the board on a violation for Bill's Liquors, as you might recall, a number of weeks ago where I was not involved. But he is especially attuned to the board's needs and the requirements of successfully operating an establishment. And certainly he and his brother are familiar with the board's rules and regulations and will be establishing all the appropriate policies to run this establishment in the correct manner. I would submit that that this transfer hearing has been properly advertised. The board's files ought to be complete with appropriate corporate documentation. We've got all of the minutes in. Mr. Siak Han is the president of the corporation, and Mrs. Fazio is the assistant secretary of the corporation. She owns just one share, and Mr. Han owns 99 of the shares. He has a full-time day job, but he is invested in making sure that this is a successful venture. and will be stopping by when his time permits to ensure that his brother is appropriately operating the establishment. I submit that the only real changes in the operation of this establishment are going to be the establishment of normal hours for the bar, and the bar will be staffed in the rear of the premises. I have submitted an updated floor plan that was done sort of off the cuff. We maybe anticipate amending that floor plan depending on the final count on tables and chairs after we interface with the appropriate county authorities on the number of seats that are going to be allowed in the establishment in the rear of the house. The floor plan that I've submitted represents what's on premises now prior to a closing on this deal. And they are certainly cognizant of the requirement that the board has in order to submit appropriate plans that show the number of seats and the arrangement of seats going forward in the future. It's a small bar that's currently installed in the rear, and I've thoroughly advised both of the Hahn brothers that they need to submit appropriate plans to the board if they're going to make any changes or alterations to the establishment. That was part of the problem that Ms. Patel had, is that the plans that were on the board's file did not match, and they certainly understand that requirement. In the short term, through sometimes lean months here in January and February, I don't think that they're going to anticipate doing much more than offering a reasonable selection of beer, wine, and liquor to their patrons, and some snacks only. Nothing that requires a food preparation permit, and there'll be no prepared food in accordance with a Class D license, just bar snacks, if you will. With that, I'm happy to try to answer any other questions, but I would submit to the board that these are fit and proper applicants before you for transfer of this license, and we would appreciate the board transferring the license.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I do. Let me just make sure I understand this. Hang on 1 minute. Yeah, the drawing that I have is, and I've been by the establishment. I know where it is, and I've never been inside it, but you've got the retail in the front, and in the back, there was a bar for years, I guess, and then it's been closed, correct?
That's essentially correct, Mr. Chairman. The bar has been non-operational for a number of years. This is Mr. Harris explained to the board.
So moving forward, we're going to get Class D with an on and off sales, and we're going to have the off sales in front and the on sales in the back, correct?
That's correct.
The bar being closed for such a long time, how are you going to get people to go to the bar? Is it?
Well, I think they're going to have to figure out how to market it first off, and they got to explain to their customers that they're going to have a bar. And I think that they're going to start with their existing customer base. And if you're familiar with this area, Mr. Chairman, it's an area right outside Fort Meade. It's a place where folks are inclined to stop in for a drink in the evening, and that's their target demographic here, is they're going to try to offer that service in the rear. There are security concerns that go along with this. There is a licensee right next door that has potentially some issues in the parking lot, as I understand it, and they're cognizant of those issues, and they're going to be attentive in making sure that there's appropriate security and staffing, both for their own parking lot and for any issues that are happening outside the establishment, and making sure that the parking lot, it's actually outside this rear bar area, is all paved across and goes into the parking area of the adjoining licensed establishment next door. It's called My Place. And they're going to make sure there's appropriate lighting and improvements and whatever's necessary to make sure that their customers feel welcome and safe, and that they're abiding by the board's rules and regulations.
Okay, thank you. No other question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, I just want to ask Mr. Lyman if to ensure that any changes, floor plan changes be made, that it be cleared with the board prior to them implementing any floor plan changes, that they come through the board prior to that.
Mr. Duffy, absolutely, wholeheartedly. We're here for a transfer application. The floor plan that was originally submitted with the application was old and inaccurate. And I hope and believe that the new floor plan that shows the actual arrangement that Chief Inspector Harris found It's not particularly to scale. It was mocked up in a brief amount of time to try to supplement and correct the application. So the floor plan that you have, I believe, is accurate as far as what's actually there. But if they are going to make any adjustments to that, they absolutely know that you need to submit your request to the board for those changes to be made before you make the changes. Do you understand that, Mr. Hahn?
Yes, and I only said that, sir, because of the fact that you indicated how many chairs there were possible and that it's could possibly be a change of chairs later on. And that's why I made sure that it was understood by all that prior to any floor plan changes, that it be approved and submitted to the office.
Commissioner Duffy, I've just counted the seats. There are 17 seats that are shown on the plan we've submitted. I suspect that they have more space than 17 seats. And if they get a plan to add more seats, they will be back in front of this board asking for permission for that.
Thank you. That's all I asked for, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Duffy.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Any additional questions of Mr. Lyman or the prospective licensees?
I have no question.
All right, well, then we will turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision. Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer. And I'm looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Chairman, thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Okay, this is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling the next case, the original Cancun Cantina, known as Lighthouse Oyster Bar and Grill, LLC. Kristen G. Foster, member, Inspector Alvin Few. This is a transfer. Currently, Philip K. Newcomb, Vice President on behalf of Cancun Inc., trading as Cancun Cantina, 7501 Old Telegraph Road, Hanover, Maryland, 21076. This is a Class D license, beer, wine, and liquor on sale, dancing and Sunday license. There is a restriction dated 10/26/1993. Licensees may not change the nature of the operation of this business without prior approval of the board. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Okay, Mr. Howes, you're muted also. Okay, do you solemnly declare, that's okay. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Kristen G. Foster, 543 King Malcolm Avenue, Odenton, Maryland, 21113.
Very good. Mr. Howes, you want to identify yourself as the attorney?
My name is Mark W. Howes, Howes. I'm an attorney here in Annapolis at 1906 Town Center Boulevard, Suite 275, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Okay, thank you both. Mr. Fraley?
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Mr. Howes, this is your opportunity to present your client's case to the board. You can do so in a number of ways. You can elicit testimony, or you can proffer to the board, or you can do a combination of both, but we'll turn it over to you at this point.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to proceed with the proffer, leaving the option open for the board to ask any questions they may have of Ms. Foster. I'm here on behalf of my clients, which are the owners of Lighthouse Oyster Bar and Grill, LLC, a Maryland limited liability company, and they're trading as the original Cancun Cantina. They recently completed the acquisition of the Cancun Cantina business, which is located at 7501 Old Telegraph Road in Hanover here in Anne Arundel County. They've acquired the business from longtime corporate owners Cancun Cantina Inc., who have served the Hanover community for many, many years. My clients hope to continue that spirit of public service by continuing to provide quality service to the community at the lowest possible cost. They have submitted all the documentation required for such a transfer from Cancun Cantina Inc., to Lighthouse Oyster Bar and Grill LLC, trading as the original Cancun Cantina. The board is free to question my client as to anything that they might like to know, but I'd like to indicate that Ms. Foster and the individuals acquiring this business are alcohol awareness and alcohol education trained. They know how to run an established liquor license establishment. They intend to keep the business open from Wednesday to Sunday from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. and close the business on Monday and Tuesday. They serve food, very good food, I might say, and they have big plans to enhance their service to the public and beautify the community. It's their intention to make the entertainment venue a safe and enjoyable place to visit. And we would respectfully request that the board consider this transfer, given the circumstances as they currently exist. They have never had a license revoked. Ms. Foster is 43 years old. She's a 20-plus year resident of Anne Arundel County. She's a principal member of the Lighthouse Oyster Bar and Grill, which will trade as the original Cancun Cantina. And she's looking forward to many, many years of success in this business. And she will adhere to all of the rules and regulations of the Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners. If the commissioners have any questions that they would like to pose, certainly feel free to do so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howes. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Just in the application, there are a number of layouts, bar layouts primarily. Are these new layouts? Or are they just showing existing?
Existing.
What's existing? There's a dance floor. I know
Yes.
it's been a long time since I've been in that place, but all of that is existing.
Yes.
Okay. Are you planning to make any internal changes to that
No.
at this
No,
point?
our plans are to operate as it was.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Howes indicated that you'll be closed on Monday and Tuesday. Are there any other hours of operation changes?
No, sir.
That's the only question I have, Counselor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duffy. Mr. Howes, anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
Nothing other than to say that I think that the board is going to find that the new owners are going to enhance this business, going to make sure that everything is done properly, subscribe to all the rules and regulations, and make it a beneficial part of the Hanover community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howes. Mr. Chairman.
Well, with that summary, I will make a motion to approve the transfer. And looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
Okay, motion second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you and good luck.
Good luck, Ms. Foster. We need it in Hanover. Thank you very much.
Good night and thank you both.
Take care.
This is Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling the next case. Yamaha Sushi Bar, known as Best Sushi Annapolis LLC, Rong Lin member, Jine Quinn Dong member, Inspector Alan Levy. This is a transfer. Currently, Craig Jokas, Assistant Secretary, Jia-Bing Cheng, President, Secretary, Treasurer on behalf of Dong Chen Inc., trading as Yamaha Sushi Bar at 2049 West Street, Suite E, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. This is a Class H license for beer and wine, music and Sunday license. There is a restriction dated 6/9/2010. Says no alcoholic beverages must be served. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. All alcoholic beverages must be served with the conjunction of a meal. With that being said, anybody wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Okay, keep your hands risen. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury and the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay.
Yes.
I do. Okay. Mr. Dong?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Jim Kwon Dong, 6004 Baywood Avenue,
Okay, Mr.
Baltimore,
Howe.
MD 21209.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Howe?
Yeah,
State your
Jinwei
name
Wei
and-
Hao. I'm a counsel for the applicant. And my address is 1684 East Goody Drive in Rockville, Maryland, 20850.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Fraley?
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Mr. Howe, this is your opportunity to present your client's case before the board. You can do so by way of testimony, proffer, or a combination of both.
Yeah, I would like to proffer the testimony of my client and I'm open for questions, be joined by my clients for specific details of the operation of the restaurant.
All right, proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. And this is a transfer application. The entity applicant, Best Sushi Annapolis LLC, is a Maryland limited liability company trading as Yamaha Sushi Bar. It operates a Japanese restaurant within the Palo Station Shopping Center. It's a small street shopping center at 2449 West Street, Annapolis, Maryland. There are two restaurants in that shopping center. It's a small shopping center. Yamaha Sushi Bar occupies a suite E, about 1,220 square feet. It's a dine-in and carry-out restaurant with about 60 seats. Its annual revenue is approximately $1.8 million, of which about 5% is from the sale of alcoholic beverage. It has 12 employees, 6 full-time and 6 part-time. The restaurant's open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. during the weekdays, and from 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. During the weekends, like Friday and Saturday. Yamaha Sushi Bar has been operating at the same location for 12 years. The transfer of this license will not have any negative impact on the local traffic or crime rate or create nuisance to the community throughout those years. Both individual applicants are naturalized U.S. citizens, Mr. Jianqing Dong and another applicant, Rong Lin, who is a resident applicant. Both applicants have completed the alcoholic awareness training programs. They will be the managers on site during the business hours. Miss Lin, the resident applicant, she has more than 10 years experience as manager in the restaurant with the alcoholic beverage license. Mr. Dong actually has been one of the owners of the restaurant establishment before the current licensee, current corporate licensee, Dong Chen, purchased the restaurant from the previous owner, which Mr. Dong was the majority owner. Except for the past 3 years, Ms. Dong was also a licensee for the license at the premises. In 2018, due to the change of ownership, Mr. Dong transferred license to the current corporate licensee, Dongchen Inc., and the current licensees, while remaining a shareholder of Dongchen Inc., the current corporate licensee. In August this year, Dongchen Inc. sold the restaurant back to Mr. Dong, who set up a limited liability company, the current applicant, for the purchase. Over the years, Mr. Dong, both as the manager and licensee of the license at the restaurant, there has been no violation of license at the premises. The restaurant intends to have 2 more employees with English fluency to complete training programs. And I'm open for question. I respectfully requested that the board approve the transfer application.
All right, thank you, counsel.
And one more items I would like to remind board. At the time we submit the application, we're in the process of getting the floor plan. I don't think that we submit a floor plan in the application. So we have this ready. That was approved. I think the date is September 29, 2021. That shows the seating and the location of the bar within the premises. With your permission, I would like to, my client would like to add this supplement floor plan to the application.
Yes, that would be great. I don't think the commissioners have had the opportunity to review it thus far since you just got it, but if you could submit that to the board.
Yeah, he will. Mr. Dong will submit it to the board.
Okay. All right.
Maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, are there any changes being made with the drawing or inside the restaurant?
I would like to ask Mr. Dong to answer.
No, no change. Nothing changing.
So the drawing you have is going to be the drawing moving forward, basically, is that it? And it was the drawing of the past, is that?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no questions.
All right, counsel, is there anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
Let me check. Yeah, no more. I'll add it. If you have questions, I'll answer.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well,
thank you.
With nothing additional to add, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you and Commissioner Duffy for deliberation and decision on this transfer.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we grant the transfer. And I'm looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy.
It's a second. That's a yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Chief Inspector Wayne Harris calling the next case. This is the Grand Ballroom LLC, known as Too Blessed to Be Stressed Catering LLC. Natasha Stovall Roll, managing member. This is a new license for 7489 Baltimore and Annapolis Boulevard, Glen Burnie, Maryland 21061. This is a Class D on sale. Beer, wine, and liquor, dancing, and Sunday license. Anyone wishing to testify, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record, Ms. Roll.
Natasha Stovall Roll, 538 Fox River Hills Way, Glen Burnie, Maryland 21060.
Thank you. Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris. Good evening, Ms. Roll. Nice to see you here. This is your opportunity to present your case to the board. You've had the chance to see some people go before you, so you can just present your case by way of proffer. Let the board know a little bit about this new venture.
Okay, and I think I hit the wrong button. I think I'm panelist. I'm not sure what I did. I look a little different, but good evening, commissioners and board. My name is Natasha Stovall Roll. I'm the owner of Too Blessed to Be Stressed Catering for 15 years now. I am a AA County resident for 9 years. I'm a registered voter. I'm also the owner of the Grand Ballroom. The Grand Ballroom is located at 7489 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard in Glen Burnie. Previously, it was a church that my catering company used to donate food to from events that we would have. We acquired this space in August of 2020, formally opened in June of 2021. I have 15 years of hosting bars services with events at weddings, celebrations, at different locations. So we have knowledge of how those protocols should run. We have a space here at the Grand Ballroom that's 5,000 square feet. We have one bar. We have bar storage that is locked, where any alcohol or liquor would be held. Currently, our clients here fill out your one-day license in order to have liquor or beer and wine at their celebrations. Let's see. Our team management, we are fully tip certified through the programs required. We have events here that are solely client-based. So we're not open during the week where people will come and have drinks. Liquor and beer and wine are served at their celebrations, whether it's a wedding, a birthday party, or an event that they're booking our space for. So granting us a license would give us the opportunity to increase our revenue here by offering spirits to their clients that may not want to wholeheartedly go out and purchase those items, as well as to control the consumption of things within our facility. Currently, right now, we offer the bartenders to them, and we carry the liquor liability insurance to assure that all county rules are met and carried out here. We do not allow them to bring in outside bartenders or family members to serve. Let's see what else. We sent in a packet of information with our business plan, my business resume, and menus that we offer. When they host events here, they are required to have food that is served by servers if they have alcohol, or if they do not have alcohol. So we do not have any event here without food that they will have alcohol for their event. It is served, food is served during cocktail hour as well as during dinner. Okay, we are wholeheartedly ready to take on this responsibility as a team for our new venture. Being in the wedding industry, this was truly a wonderful opportunity to acquire this space and transform it into a ballroom in this county, to be able to service the Glen Burnie area with events and a party space, clean, white, fresh atmosphere, full service catering kitchen, and then also now hopefully having a liquor license that will allow us to be able to sell beer and wine for events during our events that are here. So this is our request for approval for our liquor license for the ballroom. And I'm open to any and all questions.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Roll. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Yeah, you had submitted an application. In addition to that, we did get a business plan from you.
Correct.
However, I was unable to print that, but I was just curious, moving forward, how many events do you have planned, let's say, over the next 6 months?
Over the next 6 months, we are booked every weekend.
Okay,
Going forward. So that's what, 2, 4, 6.
that's fine.
Yeah, so we have done really well with the booking here in our facility. January is booked, February, weddings. They're really loving the location and the services that we're offering here. So we look to be very profitable on that end of the spectrum, as well as ending our parties at the appropriate times within the county.
Okay, so moving forward, you won't need one-day licenses. So you're.
No, we would not.
With that, do you have it? We should probably have the number that you've used in the last 6 months. Have you?
Correct. I believe it's 6.
Okay.
It's either 6 or 7 because someone picked up one this week for this weekend.
Okay. Okay. So celebrations, application, business plan. No, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, in reference to the hours, would you go over that again for me, please?
Yes. So yes, we allow events in 2 time slots per se. So for the weekend events, it's 10 to 5, and our traditional time in the evening is 6 to midnight. They are allowed to purchase 2 additional hours Parties have to end at 2 a.m. per AA County rule, and then they exit by 3 a.m. So exiting the building for us is the cleanup process. We would close the bar an hour before their end time to allow people to sober up before leaving out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, let me congratulate you and the staff on your community involvement, in particular that of feeding the community.
Absolutely. And we look to do that again here at this location.
And to also having everyone that tip certified that works within the company in and of itself.
Yes.
And I must say that it is a well-needed establishment and business venture that you undertaken here in Anne Arundel County, since the pandemic has forced other enterprise to close and to shut down. So I congratulate you on being adventurous and open up an establishment of this nature. And again, I did look at the menu, and thank you for including the menu.
You're welcome.
As part of your plan.
You're welcome.
And I always look at menus.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have no additional question or comment.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Ms. Roll, anything you would like to add before the board takes this under advisement?
No, I don't believe so.
All right. With that, I'll turn it over, Mr. Chairman.
Ed, one other question. Are you near the Fontainebleau?
We are, yes, we are actually across from the courthouse parking lot.
Okay.
On Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard. So kind of adjacent to the courthouse, not near the LaFontaine Blue. The Fontaine Blue is closer to the courthouse on the entry side than we are.
South side.
Yeah.
All righty. Just trying to get an exact.
I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve the Grand Ballroom, and looking for a second.
This Commissioner Duffy, I second it wholeheartedly.
Okay, all those in favor then, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Good
You're
luck.
welcome.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you so
Good
much.
night, good luck. I believe that is it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Excellent.
Seeing nothing else, I will adjourn the hearing of November the 18th, 2021. Thank you, everyone.